I never thought checking my bank account would be the thing that unraveled my entire life. It was a Friday evening. I just finished a brutal week at work, and my phone had died. I was making dinner, needed a recipe, so I grabbed my laptop to look it up. When I opened it, I noticed my banking app was still logged in from earlier. Not unusual. I had some pending transactions and figured I'd glance through them while the pasta boiled. That's when I saw it. A recurring monthly payment of $800 to someone named Addison. The memo line read, "Rent." And it had been going out every month like clockwork, for over 2 years. At first, I thought maybe it was some mistake. A past roommate? Family? I didn't recognize the name. And $800? That wasn't a partial split. That was full rent, or damn close to it. I stared at the screen, waiting for my brain to catch up. I opened my email, my calendar, even Venmo to see if I'd mentioned Addison anywhere. Nothing. So I waited. My girlfriend, Emma, was in the shower. We'd been together for over 2 years. We met through mutual friends, hit it off almost instantly. Same dry sense of humor, love for slow mornings and strong coffee, shared dreams about building a life together. We were planning to move in this fall. She stepped out of the bathroom in her robe, hair damp and curled around her shoulders, completely at ease. I didn't even greet her. I just asked, "Who's Addison?" Her body froze. Like someone had hit pause. Her eyes darted to the laptop still open on the kitchen counter. Her face went blank, then cautious. "What do you mean?" "There's an $800 payment going to someone named Addison. Every month. Rent." "Who is she?" She looked like someone had taken the floor out from under her. "I can explain," she said, voice tight. I didn't respond. Just waited. She's my ex. From before we met. She has MS. She's been really sick. I've been helping her out. With rent. For over 2 years. While we've been together. Emma nodded. Yes. The quiet in the room was unbearable. I think my pulse was the only thing I could hear. "You talk to her?" "Sometimes," she said quickly, but I could tell it was a lie before she corrected herself. "Okay, yes, often. We talk. We're still friends. But it's not like that." I wanted to laugh, but nothing felt funny. "So let me get this straight. You've been in daily contact with your ex-girlfriend. You've been paying her full rent. And you never thought to tell me?" "Not once." "I didn't know how," she said, her voice almost breaking. "I was scared. My last boyfriend dumped me when he found out. I didn't want to lose you too. So instead, you lied to me for 2 years." "I didn't lie," she protested. I didn't tell you." "That's literally the same thing, Emma." She stepped toward me, hands outstretched, but I stepped back. I couldn't bear her touching me. "You've been saying we couldn't afford to travel. You've made me split bills. You let me think you were barely scraping by. Meanwhile, you've been sending almost $2,000 a month to your ex." "She needed it more than I did," she said. That was the moment something in me shifted. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the utter disregard for the life we were building. She hadn't even considered telling me. She'd let me plan our future while hiding a separate financial commitment, and a very real emotional one. I told her to pack a bag and leave. That night. She cried. Tried to argue. Said I was being heartless. That she was just trying to help someone in need. That it didn't change what we had. But it did. It changed everything. After she left that night, I sat in my kitchen for hours. The food had gone cold on the stove. I didn't even realize I hadn't eaten. My hands just stayed clenched around a mug of now lukewarm tea that I never drank. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated. How do you spend over 2 years with someone, sleeping beside them, sharing plans for the future, laughing at the same inside jokes, and not know this fundamental part of their life? I didn't sleep. I just kept going over it in my head. Every missed moment. Every time she said she was just texting a friend. Every time she declined a weekend trip or said she couldn't split rent more fairly because we were both tight. Tight. Right. By the next day, I'd blocked her number. I didn't want to hear excuses. I didn't want a speech about context or guilt or whatever twisted logic made this okay in her mind. But she didn't stop. She showed up at my job Monday morning with flowers. My coworkers were confused. She looked tearful, makeup-free, holding a sad bouquet like it was a peace offering. I had to ask her to leave. Told her if she didn't, I'd have security escort her out. That was the first time I saw the cracks in her composure. She didn't text me again for 2 days. Then a wall of messages hit, paragraphs. Explanations. Apologies. Screenshots of her bank history, medical bills from Addison, notes she claimed she'd written but never sent me. I didn't open them. Instead, I forwarded the final message to my sister, Rachel. "Read this and tell me if I'm crazy," I wrote. Rachel called me 10 minutes later. "You're not crazy," she said. "But I don't know if it's black and white." That was the hardest part. Everyone I talked to, friends, my brother, coworkers, they all said the same thing: she messed up. But they also all had some version of, "I'm sure she had her reasons." Even Rachel, who's about as no-nonsense as it gets, said maybe there was something I still didn't know. So I tried to move on. 3 weeks passed. I started sleeping a little. I deleted her photos from my phone, but not the shared albums. I wanted to keep some record, some proof it hadn't all been fake. I went out with coworkers, tried to smile, tried to act like my life hadn't been blindsided. Then she emailed me. Subject line: "Please. Just talk to me." It wasn't dramatic. No long declarations of love. Just this: "I know I messed up. I know I hid things. But I wasn't trying to hurt you. I want to explain. Not to get back together. Just so you understand. I have documentation if you want to see it." The word documentation stuck with me. Like she was offering evidence in a trial. I sat with that email for 2 days. Didn't respond. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if there really was more to the story? Not because I wanted her back. That door was closed the moment I saw Addison, rent, on my bank app. But I needed clarity. I needed to know whether I'd been duped. Or if she was just someone who made a bad decision and spiraled into silence. Eventually, I wrote back. 1 line: "Coffee. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. neutral ground." She replied almost immediately: "Thank you." We met at a coffee shop near my apartment. I chose it on purpose. Familiar territory. Public, but not crowded. If she got emotional or tried to spin things, I wanted space to leave. She showed up right on time. Dressed plainly. No makeup. Her hands were shaking a little as she sat down. I didn't say anything. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. I half laughed. "A folder?" I said. "It's all I could think of," she replied quietly. "I didn't want you to think I was making things up." She started with the medical records. Addison, her ex, had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 5 years ago. The timeline checked out, long before we met. She'd lost her job a year later. Couldn't work full-time. Could barely afford basic needs. Emma said she started helping with groceries. Then utilities. Eventually, Addison couldn't cover rent, and Emma offered to help. It was supposed to be temporary, she said. How long has it been? I asked. She didn't look up. Almost 5 years. And we've been together for more than 2. I know. I didn't interrupt her. I let her talk. She told me about their past relationship, how they ended things before Addison got sick. How, even after breaking up, they'd stayed friends. How guilt, and fear, and some misguided sense of loyalty kept her from severing ties. I asked how often they talked. She hesitated. Every day. Most days. The room spun slightly. I didn't scream. I didn't get up. I just let the information hit me, piece by piece. Emma tried to frame it as compassion. She doesn't have anyone else, she said. Her parents are gone. She's estranged from her siblings. I couldn't just abandon her. I asked, so you chose to abandon me instead? She didn't answer. I stood up. She panicked. Please, wait, there's more. There always is, I muttered, but I sat down again. She slid another document across the table. I recognized it immediately, an insurance form. I looked down and saw 2 names listed under dependents. Addison was one. The second was a name I'd never heard before. Ben. Who's Ben? I asked slowly. Emma looked up at me for the first time in the entire conversation. He's her son. My mouth went dry. She has a kid? She nodded. He's 6. Wait, I blinked. You never told me Addison had a kid. You never told me you were paying rent. You never told me she was sick. And now, she has a kid? She swallowed hard. He's Leonard's son. Everything stopped. I stared at her. I couldn't even form the words. Wait. What? Leonard is his dad, she said, tears welling. They were already broken up when she found out she was pregnant. They tried co-parenting, but it didn't work. Then she got diagnosed with MS a year later. Leonard promised to support them financially, no matter what. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. You knew all this, for how long? Since the beginning. You've known you were dating a man who was secretly supporting his ex and his child, and you never told me? I wanted to, she whispered. But once we got serious, it just felt harder and harder to explain. I knew how it would look. And how does it look? I asked. Like betrayal. She was right. It felt like I'd been living with a stranger. I asked how involved Leonard was in his son's life. He visits about once a month, she said. Sometimes more. Does he talk to him in between? No. He said he didn't want you to overhear. That made me sick. So not only was he hiding a child from me, he was limiting his relationship with that child just to keep his secret? Emma nodded, shame in her eyes. Does Addison know about me? I asked. She does. At least. Leonard says she does. I raised an eyebrow. Do you believe him? She hesitated. I'm not sure. This whole situation was collapsing in on itself. What had started as one shocking payment had turned into a web of lies, emotional, financial, and now parental. I stood up again. I can't do this. I needed clarity, not chaos. Emma reached into her bag and handed me something small. A notebook. What's this? I asked. It's a journal Leonard's kept about Ben. Drawings, little stories, notes from their visits. I thought maybe, if you saw it, you'd understand he's not just a guy throwing money at a situation. I held the notebook but didn't open it. I wasn't sure I wanted to see the human side of the man who'd hidden so much. That night, I couldn't sleep. The journal sat on my table, untouched. Part of me didn't want to give in. I didn't want to be manipulated into sympathizing with someone who had gaslit me for years. But at 3 a.m., I opened it. Inside were simple entries, Ben's drawings, things he'd said, moments from their brief weekends. A photo taped to one page showed them at a park, both smiling, Ben on his dad's shoulders. It was real. Too real. And it made me angrier. Because it wasn't just about Addison, or even the money. It was about how Leonard had played everyone, me, Addison, maybe even himself. Creating this double life where he could pretend he was doing the right thing while lying to the people closest to him. The next morning, Emma texted again. Please talk to Addison. She deserves a voice in this. I ignored the message at first. But hours later, curiosity got the best of me. I found Addison's Instagram. Her profile was public. Her posts were full of photos, her and Ben, and another man. Edwin. He was tagged in several pictures, sometimes with captions like, Family Day, or, My Rock. One post said, 3 years with this amazing man. Another called him, Ben's bonus dad. Wait. Addison had a fiancé? My blood ran cold. I scrolled faster. There were pictures of all three, Addison, Edwin, and Ben, smiling on what looked like vacation. Another post showed Addison with a ring on her finger. 8 months ago. So let me get this straight. Leonard had been paying her full rent, while she was engaged to someone else? While Ben had another father figure in his life? I texted Emma one word, why? She replied, I didn't know about Edwin. Not until recently. But I didn't respond. Instead, I took screenshots and sent them to Rachel. She called me in 5 minutes flat. What the hell, she said. Are you sure that's the same Addison? Yes, I said. It's the same kid. Same woman. Same guy Leonard's been paying rent for. Rachel paused. You need to talk to her. Addison? Yeah. If she'll talk to you. She might be the only one who can tell you what the hell is actually going on. I debated it all night. Whether reaching out to Addison was the right move. It felt invasive, even weird. I was just the guy who dated the guy who paid her rent. What right did I have to insert myself into her personal life? But I couldn't shake the feeling that she was the missing piece in all of this. The next day, I texted her. I kept it short, polite. Hi Addison, my name's Nathan. I used to date Leonard. I recently learned some things that affect us both. I'd appreciate a chance to talk, no pressure. I didn't expect a reply. But 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Hi. I figured this might happen eventually. I'm free tomorrow afternoon if you want to meet. Just coffee. We set a time and place. I didn't tell Emma. I didn't tell Leonard. I only told Rachel, and even then just in case something felt off. Addison arrived 5 minutes early. Slim, tired-looking, but with a quiet strength. She recognized me immediately and gave a small nod as she sat down. I ordered tea. She didn't get anything. We didn't waste time. You've probably heard a lot of things, she said. So I'll just be honest. And you can ask whatever you want. Okay, I said. I guess I'll start here. Are you and Leonard still involved? She shook her head. Not romantically. Not since before Ben was born. I know people assume there's something more, especially because of the money. But I haven't been in love with Leonard in years. Does your fiancé know he pays your rent? Yes, she said, with a touch of frustration. Edwin knows everything. We've argued about it. But he also knows my medical situation. He doesn't make much. He teaches music part-time and gigs on weekends. He helps in other ways, but we couldn't afford the rent without Leonard's support. I nodded slowly. Why does Leonard still pay the full rent if you have someone else in the picture? Addison looked tired. Because he insists. That caught me off guard. He offered to stop a few times, especially when Edwin and I moved in together, she said. But then he'd show up with groceries, or pay the power bill anyway, or just Venmo me the rent without asking. I asked, so, he's the one pushing to stay financially involved? Mostly, yes. But he says he's doing it because you threatened to limit his access to Ben otherwise. Addison's face hardened. I never threatened him, she said firmly. He's always been free to be part of Ben's life. He chooses the once-a-month visits. I've invited him to school plays, parent-teacher meetings, holidays. He always says he's busy or that he doesn't want to confuse Ben. I frowned. He showed me texts where he asked for more time. She pulled out her phone. Showed me message threads that painted the opposite story. Her inviting. Him declining. Her checking in. Him changing the subject. I didn't know what to believe anymore. One thing was clear, someone was lying. Or maybe they both were. Twisting their own version of the truth. I asked, why keep accepting the money if it makes things harder with Edwin? If it ties you to Leonard emotionally? She exhaled. Because it keeps the roof over my head. Because MS is expensive. Because when you're a single mom dealing with chronic illness, pride is a luxury you can't always afford. I couldn't argue with that. And yet, there was something strange about her tone, detached, like she was used to explaining herself. Do you think Leonard is using the money as leverage? She thought for a long moment before answering. Sometimes, yes, she said. But I also think he doesn't know how to let go. This situation gives him a role to play. The savior. The good dad. The martyr. I nodded slowly. That tracked. Before I left, I asked her one last question. Did you know about me? Me and him? She looked up sharply. He mentioned he was dating someone. Said it wasn't serious. Asked me not to bring it up if you ever found out about Ben. My stomach turned. So he'd lied to both of us. Addison seemed to notice my reaction. I'm sorry you got pulled into this, she said. I really am. I thanked her for meeting with me and left. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Anger? Relief? Closure? Instead, I felt heavier than ever. Because now I knew both sides. And both sides were a mess. That night, when I got home, there was a package at my door. From Leonard. Inside was a USB drive. And a note. If you're still looking for the truth, it's all here. Everything. I'm not hiding anymore. I didn't want to plug in the USB. But of course I did. The folder had hundreds of files, screenshots, message logs, PDFs of financial statements, even voice recordings. I felt like I was digging through evidence in a custody trial. But this wasn't just about curiosity anymore. I wanted to understand how I got pulled into this, how I missed it all. The messages between Leonard and Addison were messy. Some were warm, friendly, occasionally flirtatious. Others were tense, even cruel. They'd fought about money. About visitation. About Edwin. Sometimes Leonard asked to see Ben more often, only to cancel at the last minute. Other times, Addison offered weekends and holidays and Leonard turned her down. It was clear they both played games. Addison with guilt and silence. Leonard with money and manipulation. There were also audio clips, voicemails from Addison during bad flare-ups, her voice shaky, asking for help. And Leonard responding in long, concerned texts. I almost forgot how sick she really was. Then I'd hear her laugh in another message about how Ben got a gold star at school, and suddenly she didn't seem like a ghost anymore. She was just complicated. I spent hours going through everything. The one that hit hardest was a voice note Leonard sent to himself, maybe never meant to be shared. I keep thinking I'm doing the right thing by keeping them safe, by giving them stability. But I don't even know who I'm protecting anymore. Them? Or myself? That one made me sit in silence. Because that's what it all came down to, wasn't it? Leonard wasn't some villain with a secret family. But he wasn't a victim either. He was a man caught in his own web, too cowardly to choose a lane, too obsessed with control to be honest. The next day, I agreed to meet him one last time. We met at the same cafe where I'd first confronted Emma. Holly came with me but stayed in her car, just in case. Leonard looked older. Tired. He didn't smile. Just nodded. I laid everything out, Addison's texts, the Instagram posts, the contradictory stories, the financial records. Then I looked at him and said, "No more spin. Just tell me the truth." He stared at the table for a long time. Then he started talking. He admitted it all. He and Addison had never fully let go. They weren't romantically involved, but they'd kept emotional leverage over each other. The money gave him power. The child gave her leverage. And in between, they built a strange, broken codependence. He knew it was unfair. He knew he should have told me about Ben the moment we got serious. But he didn't. He was afraid, yes, but also selfish. "I liked that you saw me as someone solid," he said. "Not someone with a messy past." I wasn't ready to lose that. I nodded. "So instead, you let me believe in a version of you that never existed." He didn't argue. I told him I appreciated the honesty, but that I was done. With him. With Emma. With the whole twisted story. He asked if I thought he was a bad father. I thought about it before answering. "I think you love your son," I said. "But I don't think you know how to be a father." "Not yet." He nodded, tears in his eyes. I left him sitting there. I sent Addison one last message later that night. Just one line. "I won't be reaching out again. I wish you strength, for you and Ben. Take care." She replied a few hours later. "Thank you. I'm sorry you got hurt in all this." As for Emma, I haven't spoken to her since. She tried to reach out again, but I didn't answer. I don't hate her. I don't even blame her for everything. But I can't be with someone who builds love on secrets. This whole experience changed me. I'm more guarded now. Less trusting. But also more aware of the quiet ways people lie, by omission, by silence, by letting you believe something just because it's easier than telling the truth. Somewhere out there is a kid named Ben, with a mom who's sick and trying, and a dad who loves him but doesn't know how to show it without messing everything else up. I hope he turns out better than we did. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.